Mental Health and Me, episode 3. Okay, this week we're talking, or I'm talking, about my struggles with alcohol and drugs. Mainly drugs, but obviously alcohol went hand in hand with that lifestyle. And for me, it was kind of an escape from reality, I suppose, because all the time I was doing it, like in the evenings or whatever. I know eventually it crept into doing it in the mornings as well, but at least in the beginning it was only on the weekends, in the evenings, and for those 8 to 12 hours, whatever it would be, I felt good for the first time in a long time. And I'm talking about the hard drugs now, not weed. I smoked weed when I was 19. Well, actually earlier than that. I think I started when I was about 15. But the weed smoking was at its worst when I was about 19. I was smoking all day, every day. The moment I woke up, roll one. No, in fact, I rolled it the night before, so it was ready for the minute I woke up. As soon as that one was finished, I'd roll the next one, and it went on and on and on until I fell asleep that night. And at the time, we were living in Spain, and I lived in a caravan on my parents' land, so I rarely left that caravan, to be honest. I just smoked and smoked. The only time I left was to go around to a friend's to smoke some more, or they would come to me, and we would just smoke constantly. But today I want to talk more about the hardest stuff. Now, as I said, it was like an escape from reality, and it was the only time I felt good and happy, at least in the beginning. Eventually that stopped, and it was kind of just a habit by then, or an addiction. And it started off with things like cocaine and MDMA. And MDMA is a funny one, because obviously it releases all those happy chemicals, but you use up a hell of a lot of them while you're on it. So the next day, I don't even want to describe it to you, because it was horrible. Like, if you think you've been suicidal but not been suicidal on a come down from MDMA, then I don't want you to experience that, basically. So yeah, for a long time MDMA was my drug of choice. I think one night, I'm not going to tell you how much I spent on it. It was a lot. We did quite a lot. It was probably, I used to share everything with my friends, so I think we did about a quarter of an ounce in one night between 6 of us, which is ridiculous. Surprised we lived, because that should have been an overdose, really. Luckily it was spaced out, but by the morning I didn't know where I was. I kept thinking that, because I was at my friend's house at the time, I kept thinking that I was in my nan's house, and then it would switch to a thought that I was in Brighton for some reason, and I kept getting up and going, right, I've got to get the train home, guys. And my friend would say to me, mate, you live round the corner, why are you getting the train home? I was like, and I'd come out and be like, oh shit, I thought I was in Brighton. So yeah, that's one of those stories that I tell, and it sounds funny now, but at the time it was awful. It was really awful. So yeah, for a long time MDMA was the drug of choice, but then that stopped working because I was taking it so much, like every single day, to the point where it didn't really do much anymore. So I moved on, and you know, cocaine was always there in the background, but I liked while I was doing MDMA as well, the next day you'd take a handful of Valium to try and stop yourself from feeling so low. So there was 2 on the go all the time, But yeah, after MDMA, I moved on to like ketamine, ketamine, and that was a fun one because it was dissociative. So you kind of have an out of body experience almost, and when you're so you've been into these drugs for so long and you're starting to look for answers as to why you're feeling depressed and stuff, you start to think that these experiences that you have on drugs were spiritual experiences, or a lot of people do. I know that much. So you start to believe that you're connected to another dimension almost, and that's where the answers lie, and you keep trying to get back there, and that's going to sort your head out almost. And to be honest, it felt like it did, because I found myself, or I found a lot of answers, and it didn't stop the depression, it didn't stop the anxiety, but I had spells where I felt like it was irrelevant because I was destined for this higher plane, when in actual fact it was, I know now that it was just the chemicals altering my reality. So yeah, ketamine was a funny one, and that I got hooked on that pretty quick. So it would be, and the thing is, ketamine doesn't really keep you awake, so if you want to stay awake then you have to do it alongside other things. So I was taking a lot of speed, a lot of ketamine, and then if I give you a sort of day in the life, right? So do loads of ketamine, use speed to stay awake for a few days, and then when you do eventually want to go to sleep, take a load of Valium or something else that's going to help you sleep or relax, go into a massive long sleep, wake up, have a coffee with speed in it to wake you up, to start the process all again. And after months of this, I wasn't all there anymore. I wasn't myself, because I was constantly altering my perception of reality, and it got to the point where people couldn't understand what I was saying because I was not forming my words properly. So that was funny, and I was skinny. I was like skinny as a rake as well, because I never ate anything. It was always just feed me with drugs. So that was not a fun time in my life, and in fact there's a whole year of my life that's a bit of a blur. I can't piece it together, and I definitely can't do it in the right order. So that's kind of my experience of drugs and alcohol. So right now, like I never touch drugs. I wouldn't go near them anymore. Not even, like, if I smell someone smoking a spliff, I'll move away just in case I get that contact high. And I don't want it. I've told all my doctors know that it's on my records. I've said you need to put in my notes that I am not to have anything that's even slightly addictive, because I don't want to be dependent on chemicals ever again in my life, and I won't be. So yeah, that's kind of my story about the drugs. But when it came to alcohol, that was just hand in hand. So yes, at the time I would wake up and I'd have a beer because I was getting on it again with my mates and what have you. But now I basically when I gave drugs, I gave up alcohol for 12 months. Well, 11 and a half months. And that was kind of enough to get me out of that habit, and now I can enjoy a drink occasionally on the weekend. I'm currently in a sober spell at the moment. I'm doing 2 weeks off Just because as soon as I feel like the volume of drinking is starting to increase, like if I'm having more than 2 or 3 drinks in a night on a weekend, then I'll take a couple of weeks off just to make sure that that habit's not creeping back in. I know it's not, because I've got full control over it, but it's just from my own peace of mind. So that's kind of my experience with the alcohol side of things. I won't go too deep into that because I don't feel like I'm qualified to talk about alcoholism from my own perspective. I can talk about what I know about it from what I've studied and stuff, but this is about me, and I don't think my alcohol experience qualifies as a problem because it was a problem with drugs that I had and the alcohol came with it. So I did have a problem, but there are other people out there that would, I feel, be offended if I was to say that I've got a problem with alcohol, because I can drink in moderation now. I never drink during the week. I might have a drink on a Friday night and I might have a drink on a Saturday night, and that is it. And it's never more than 3 drinks. If it does get to more than 3 drinks, as I said, I take a few weeks off just to reset. So that's my story. If I want to hear about yours, obviously you're welcome to comment if you want to. You don't have to. If you want to direct message me and we can have a discussion, I can try to help. You know, I can't really give you advice. I can listen and I can talk about my own experiences. If you feel like that would help, please do reach out. I am always happy to talk to anyone about addictions, mental health, stress, whatever you need, whatever you feel that you need to talk about. Please do reach out. And not even if it's just you being affected directly. If you're being affected because someone you know is this way, please reach out. I'm happy to talk. So I think that's it from me this week. I just wanted to tell you my experience and not go into all the ins and outs of it. Just tell you what it was like in those days. And that's really what this series is going to be about. Hoping that it will spark discussion, or it will spark something inside you that makes you reach out and ask for help, even if it's not with me, someone else, whatever. Just make sure you reach out, guys. Alright, see you next week.